Welcome everybody to Sharing Soulful Stories. Today I'm here with Catherine Robertson. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi, Jo. Nice to be with you today.
So let me tell everybody a little bit more about you. Catherine Robertson is a Reiki master, an intuitive counsellor with a private practice based in Seaforth, which for non-Australians and non-New South Wales residents is in New South Wales, Australia. She is the author of How 60 Days of Gratitude Can Transform Your Life and contributing author to the 2014 publication, The Path to Wellness. She works with her partner to facilitate family constellation workshops and wild meditation wilderness retreats. Wow, that sounds really exciting. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you.
So, as you know, this whole series is opening people's hearts and minds to how many different faces there are to spirituality through the conversations that I'd have. And I'd love to open with, what does spirituality mean to you?
Well, it was so amazing to get this question from you, because I think over the last 6 years, I don't think I'd ever stopped to ask myself that question about what spirituality meant. So it was a really nice process to go inward and think about that. And there was a few things that came up for me. Spirituality for me is the practice of living my life connected to my heart and really being aligned with the truth and wisdom that my heart contains, as opposed to the mind taking over and being filled with fear and stories. So it's really the process of choosing love rather than fear, and learning to really relax and rest in what my true nature really is, and accepting of knowing that I'm whole and knowing that I'm complete as I am, and that really we're all connected to each other. So feeling that sense of oneness that we all share, as opposed to separation. I mean, A Course in Miracles talks about there's only one of us here. And I really think that that's something that on the spiritual journey, it really becomes very strong as a guiding principle, that there is only one of us here. So spirituality for me really becomes the journey of doing the work to really see where I'm not aligned with my heart, and where there may be blocks or fears, stories, limiting beliefs, judgments, and doing the work to really expand my consciousness so that I can really be in a state of love as much as possible. And that's a commitment and a discipline, really, to truth, and to really living in that space, because the ego keeps trying to pull me into separation and fear over and over and over again. It doesn't seem to matter how long the spiritual journey lasts. So simply just living in that space of love, being connected to my heart, being guided by truth, because it feels better.
Oh, I love that description. I'm so enjoying hearing all these beautiful descriptions of spirituality and how different it is. But what a beautiful, just lovely way of rounding it to living from love and being guided by what your heart has to say. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wonder though, through that, whether spirituality has always been part of your life, or was there some turning or trigger event that led you down a path to opening up to this beautiful description of spirituality that you've shared with us?
Yeah, well, I was brought up Catholic, so prayer and a sense of believing in God and trusting in God has always been part of my life. And certainly as a teenager, I was very drawn to mysticism. So tarot cards, rune stones, astral projection, clairvoyance, all of that, paganism, learning all about that, and being a voracious reader and investigator of that side of life was really strong for me. But I sort of let that go the older I got. I think after my late teens, approaching the end of high school and university, I sort of like put that in a box and shelved it. And I really sort of probably cut off from that part of myself for quite a long time. And then there was a trigger for me, I think, as there often is for people on the spiritual path. There'll be some sort of crisis or some trauma or some major event that sort of stops you in your tracks to make you really reflect and think about what's going on in life. And for me, that happened in 2012. So back then, I was at a corporate training week. I was a sales rep, and we're having this session on stress management. So we're going through a pretty demanding time for our team, and our boss brought in a leadership consultant who he had been working with, and we thought we were going to learn all these strategies about time management and stress, and we're all eager to learn, and we're sitting there, and he started the session by asking us, what causes you stress in life? And so everyone's talking about finances, family, in-laws, you know, all of those, traffic in Sydney, all of those obvious stress points. And one of the things that my partner and I that were working together, we said was the expectations we put on ourselves. And so that was his absolute focus for the entire hour that we were together, the stress that we place on ourselves. And during the course of that hour, it was just this crushing realization that all of the pain, sadness, anger, dissatisfaction in life was really something that I was doing to myself. It wasn't external circumstances. It was my filter of how I see you taking a deep breath. That's exactly what it was like. It was like this, whoa. And all of a sudden, I literally could hear the Pandora's box opening in my head, because it was just this, holy crap, I can't be a victim anymore. This is not poor me. I'm actually choosing how I respond to the things that are happening in my life. And it was all a choice. So it was like this sense that I was really causing all this pain to me. So it was huge. It was incredibly emotional. I was in floods of tears and shocked, like I really felt shocked to my core. And I remember vividly coming out of that meeting, and I turned to my boss who'd organised it and said, "You're going to pay my psychotherapy bills for the next 10 years." Because it just was this acute sense that something had shifted. You know, my perception of life and my role within it had really changed, and I was now going to have to do something about that. It was like I'd seen something I couldn't unsee, which was exquisite but excruciating at the same time. So that came on the back of a pretty hard year. Our family were dealing with a terminal illness from my father-in-law. So life had been pretty stressful, and only a couple of days after that meeting, everything sort of fell apart for me with his illness. And I really had a meltdown, and I was advised to go for some counselling, and that maybe I could use some support. And I remember just that sense of counselling wouldn't be enough. Like, counselling felt like it would be quite superficial, and what was going on for me, this shift that had taken place and this realisation and awareness was this was something deeper that I needed to investigate and work with. So that set me, really opened up my spiritual path and journey. I found a kinesiologist, and that's when my healing work began, and my exploration into spirituality and how it was really going to change and transform things for me.
Wow, amazing. What a gift in disguise, because I know I've had those moments too where you're that along this pathway, this huge realization, but there is this almost sense of grief. Like, what am I losing then? You know, like you've lost this part of you. You don't know who you are almost anymore when you're like, well, then who am I without that? Those behaviors have been the way I've approached my life forever. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. And I wonder, can you share, because we're really sharing stories here, so can you just share how your spiritual journey has unfolded from that trigger, or if there's more to it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was December 2012. And since then, you know, I can honestly say that life has just opened up in the most amazing way. Like, just to realize that peace, happiness, contentment, joy is not going to come from the size of my house, whether I've got a big TV, what car I'm driving, success in the workplace. None of that. It's much purer than that, and it's really having an open heart and living from that space of love and gratitude, and accepting life with grace, and really surrender to everything that's showing up for me, whether it's wanted or unwanted. As you said, the challenges are sometimes the greatest gifts, and being open to whatever is happening moment to moment without trying to resist it, without trying to change it. And that's been liberating to really access that place, because it's freedom. Mm-hmm. So, you know, knowing that I really do create my own reality. I mean, I know that sounds all hokey and law of attraction, but by choosing what I want to focus on, I've got the ability to create my dream life. And that's what's happened over the last 6 years. Like bit by bit and year by year, it's just this wonderland of, wow, I never knew life could be like this. You know, it's just been amazing. And to the point, you know, people use the first couple of years, especially, people used to stop me that I knew and would be like, what is going on with you? Like, what's happening? Like, you won the lottery, and you know, what's going on? So, and I'd be like, nothing, because it was just felt like this joy and this lightness and this freedom had started to open up as I moved away from all the old patterns, the limitations, the stories, the judgments. The little box that it felt like I had been living in before had just been shattered, which was incredible. But, you know, it's not always been easy. And I know certainly you were wanting to know some of the highs and lows as well that can happen on the spiritual path, because it can be easy for people to think, oh, it's just all happiness and joy and gratitude and, you know, living in love and light and all of that. And that sounds really beautiful, but it's not all like that. And there's definitely some hard parts. And I don't think I've ever cried as much as over the last 6 years. Also because there is the grief that happens. And it's, you know, sometimes it's funny to try and make sense of it and understand it, because it happens in little incremental parts. But then the longer you're on the journey, the more you see that there is a bit of a pattern and that there's a cycle. And I think the cycle, I've realized, is that the more you become attuned to your heart and the more you listen to it, the more sensitive you become. So you become sensitive to love and beauty and joy, and that's wonderful, but you also then become very sensitive to what has been suppressed inside. So some of the traumas and pains that's been pushed down and blocked down, and let's not look at that and let's not touch that, those start to bubble up and start to filter into consciousness and awareness, and that can be really painful, because they have to be seen and acknowledged in order to be released and to move through it. So that process can be extremely painful and lead into, you know, what they call dark nights of the soul, and those moments of what the hell has happened to me, because I don't recognize myself or my life anymore.
Oh, thank you though. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I didn't put that question in, but I really did have that on my initial list of 20 was like, has it been easy? Because I know the answer is going to be not all of it. I mean, as you say, living from love, yeah, it all sounds joy and peace and whatever, but it's that also learning to embrace all of the experiences that come along with it, isn't it? The good and the bad, as you pointed out. And I didn't have this down as a question, but I can't help to ask it, because you sort of shared how it's unfolded in terms of how you've been impacted and what's happened to you. But I feel people will be like, but how, what did you do to see that new perspective, to slowly release some of those stories and, you know, come out of your little box that you described yourself being in?
Yeah. So initially for me, it was starting to work with that kinesiologist. Okay. So that the one I first went to see when I decided I needed to do something about this pattern, I started to work with her quite intensely. And that was a process of energetic work to release some of the old stories and programs and limitations. So as that started to feel like I was being released from those old conditionings, it was kind of like, I'm trying to explain it best, it sort of felt like an upgrade to a computer system. So, and I explain this sometimes to my Reiki clients when people come, it's like you've got this old computer, and in order to upgrade it, you need to go through a defragmentation process. So you're breaking apart those old programs in order to bring new, more functional ones. So she really helped me break apart those old programs. As that process happened, there was more space, And then I started to become more curious about things. So meditation started to come into my life. So I started to meditate in the mornings. Previously, I hadn't taken very good care of my physical health. So I drank too much, worked too hard, didn't exercise, probably ate quite unhealthy food at times, watched too much TV. So slowly I started to realize, hey, this doesn't feel good. How about I go for a walk first thing in the morning? And that started to feel good. So exercise started to become part of my daily life. So there was meditation, then there was some exercise. Then I started to make better choices about, well, I could watch TV, or I could be spend some time reading or listen to some podcasts. So I started, it was almost like I opened up to the universe energetically and just said, okay, help me or point me in the right direction. So someone would mention a book, and previously it might have gone over my head, but then I would follow that signal and start to read that book. So that was a very gradual process. Probably one of the biggest shifts for me, and one of the things I'm most passionate about, is gratitude, because I started in that first year to bring a gratitude practice into my life. And that was simply because I started to see it everywhere. Like, it was kind of one of those, oh my God, I keep seeing this word everywhere I go. Like, what's the message here? So I was kind of open to messages. So I kind of thought, okay, this is pointing me somewhere. So I started to do it, and I started to think of 3 things I was grateful for in the morning, and think of 3 things I was grateful for in the evening. Very mundane, run of the mill, kind of thought, can this really make a difference? Like, this is just so simple. So I did that for a few weeks, and I started to notice gradually that I was noticing more in life. So I was feeling a bit like random things would catch my eye, and I'd think, oh, isn't that beautiful? Or someone would pass me in the street and I'd catch their eye and would share a smile or something. So slowly and gradually, these subtle changes started to come in. And then I remember reading a blog that Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, had written. And she was talking about a gratitude jar. And she said she wrote down gratitude items and put them in her jar. I thought, well, that's a good idea. Why don't I write them down? So the practice moved from just mentally thinking of the gratitude to writing it down. And what happened next was just incredible, because I started by writing 3 things, but then my list would start to grow. And I changed the practice from gratitude in the morning to gratitude at night. And so I'd think of the whole day, and I would play the whole day in my head, and I'd think of all the things that I was grateful for that happened during that day. And so sometimes I would do 2 A4 sheets of paper by the end of the night. So that for me is probably one of the biggest practical things that I did, which started to change things, because it's like putting on a different pair of sunglasses, and all of a sudden you start to see things differently. And the more you're grateful for, the more the universe gives you things to be grateful for. So it's like this snowball effect. So I think, those are some of the practical things that I started to adopt, and which really started to make a difference. And as I did that, I stopped chasing what I thought I needed to make me happy, and let go of things that I was pursuing. And ironically, the more I let go, the more cool stuff came to me. And so I think gradually it just builds up this trust in the process, the trust of letting go, the trust of surrendering, and the trust of actually being grateful for what life has given you in each and every moment. Just creates this transformation.
Oh, I love that. I really love that, because it feels like the pieces in particular that I felt really I love was that the way you sort of asked, okay, universe, where should I go? Like, what next? And that can be a little practice in itself, because I know throughout all these interviews there's going to be lots of different ideas for people to play with. And and the other piece that you mentioned about it felt good. I started going for a walk in the morning, and it felt good. I was enjoying it. I love that too. So thank you so much for sharing. And you've touched on all of those ways that have brought you over that 6-year period, and I love that. But I wonder if now, and you have mentioned some already, but can you tell us how you actually sort of weave it into your daily life? Do you still do the walk, the meditation, the gratitude? What does it look like now?
Yeah. Well, I think it's spirituality in terms of how I live is now just part of every moment of my day, really. So it's coming back to that commitment. Am I choosing love and truth over fear, projection, going into separation as often as I can, or have I gone to sleep? And by going to sleep, it's going unconscious to what are those automatic patterns of the ego that will try and lure us into believing that we're separate from each other, and to keep that distance. So the spiritual path for me is just really have been disciplined to be alert to what those traps are when they show up for me, having a commitment to truth, and being sensitive to what's going on within me. So when I feel a contraction in my heart, or when I'm aware that I've projected something or gone into story and my own hallucination and judgment and separation and anger and all of those things, trying to stop it and be curious about what's going on for me, and really go into inquiry about it. So that will be different things for different days. Meditation is still a foundation practice for me every day. Practicing gratitude as much as I can, yoga, body work, Reiki, going for acupuncture when I feel that something's off balance, healing, dance, going on retreats, studying A Course in Miracles this year, so that's been huge. Learning the Enneagram, which has been another sort of quantum leap for me in terms of my spiritual growth and development, and really learning who I am. And letting go of those ego fixations and those old patterns. Listen to podcasts. I'm very lucky. I have a job which I'm still part-time corporate, and I have a job which allows me to drive around. So I choose to listen to a lot of podcasts, spiritual podcasts each day. Adyashanti and Eckhart Tolle and Elan Gangaji, Marianne Williamson and Ramdas, and I do journaling and all of those things. It's just a constant desire for me and commitment to be the best that I can be, and to grow and to not stagnate. So whatever the growth is and whatever's showing up is kind of what I follow.
Brilliant. So many ideas. And I love that, as you say, it can be different every day. It's sort of that the awareness, what do I need in this moment? What's going to best support me in this time? And get me back to the place of love, or do I need to investigate what is this that's coming up? That curiosity. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
You're welcome.
So I did have one more question for you. Do you have any advice for somebody in their early stages? Maybe they haven't even had that aha moment of, oh my goodness, like you had in your meeting 6 years ago. But they're curious enough to begin. Anything that you would give them as advice?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever truly ready, for whatever is going to show up for them. But I think it's probably being sensitive, and as you said, curious about what's showing up for them. Because life is going to present the opportunities for you in order to expand your consciousness, really. Because that's what life wants to do. And it's whether we listen to those signals or not. So I think probably the most important thing you can do is realize that everyone's spiritual path is different. People come to those realizations of there's only one of us here, and we're all connected, and what I do to you, I do to me, and how I serve you is how I serve me. Everyone comes to that from different places. So I think probably the best thing you can do is just listen to what you're drawn to and to follow that. And for some people that will be dance, for some people it will be a psychotherapist, for some people it will be meditation, for some people it will be a yoga retreat. But just be curious about what you need, and ask for what you need. I do this on a regular basis. I believe in angels. I speak to my angels and my higher guides. I will say, okay, and I've done this periodically. I'll sit and kind of go, okay, I'm ready for the next group of people that are going to help me on the next stage of my growth. And it's like all of a sudden I'll just meet these amazing, interesting people who will share something that will, take me on the next path. which opens something else up. So that's a really powerful thing to do, to just, you know, surrender to the higher will and just say, okay, show me what that means. From a practical point of view, I think you can't beat meditation. I think you have to sit in stillness each day. Give yourself 10 or 15 minutes each day just to sit and be still and be quiet and just be aware of what starts to show up in your mind. Because things will start to appear, and that will give you the material then to work with. And then you'll find the people. I mean, I've got a team of people, as I said, you know, energy healers, bodywork people, psychotherapists, Reiki masters, body workers, a whole clairvoyant teachers. I've got a whole team of people that when the right thing comes, I know who to go to for help. So just listen to what you're drawn to. Practice gratitude. As I said, it's absolutely life-changing. I don't think there's one more single practical thing you could do which could change your view of reality. And for anyone who's interested, I'm happy to send the ebook that I wrote about how 60 days can transform your life. So I can send that to anyone who wants it. Yeah. And surround yourself with good people. That's one thing I learned quite early on in the path. Someone told me, I was at a retreat, and someone said, you're the product of the 5 people who are closest to you. So choose those people really carefully. So you can surround yourself with the people who are gossiping, who are judgmental, who are negative, who want to drink too much, who are happy to numb out, who poo-poo everything and you know, think you're crazy. And there will be people that think you're crazy as you begin in this path, because it is so different to the mainstream way of thinking and living. Marianne Williamson talks about it. It's a full 180 from the way the world operates. To live in love and open-heartedness and trust and surrender is the opposite to fear, control, rigidity, separation, me. So some people will think you're crazy, and that's okay, because some people need to fall away from your life in order to make space for those new people who will be teaching, sharing, guiding you. And so I think and there will be grief that comes with that, obviously, but ultimately it's for the best. Yeah.
Oh, I love all of that. I love all of that so much. I actually really love that idea about asking for the next group of people that you're ready to learn from. And do you know what's really interesting for me? That triggered a fear thing. I was like, oh, like, what's the next one?
What I'm not ready.
What might that just challenge me to step up to? So I've got to, okay, I'll go and sit with that. What am I afraid of by inviting?
Yeah. Well,
really
one of the affirmations I had from my kinesiologist when I first started was, whatever's for my highest good on all levels and dimensions, I now allow it into my life.
That's beautiful. I might start.
Whatever's for my highest good. But as you said, there can be that slight fear, because sometimes whatever's for your highest good is not always comfortable. And it can be extremely challenging. Yeah. So, you know, it's like the Matrix, you know, when you've got the red pill of awareness or the blue pill and you go back to sleep and it was all a dream, and which one you're going to choose. And once you've taken the red pill, you can't go back. You know, there's been moments over the last 6 years that, what the hell have I done? Like, this is...
I know. I used to have that quote on my website. That's one of my favorite, like, are you ready to ready to come down the rabbit hole? But I promise you, for me anyway, awareness, I want to be awake. I don't want to be asleep anymore. This is
it's
my
so worth it
to be here. And learning this new way of leading from love. Thank you so much for all of what you've shared today, Catherine. You had so many amazing insights to share with people, and tools, and really practical and accessible ways that people can step into this. So can you just share, as we complete, how, if people want to connect further with you, where they can go to find you again?
Sure. So I have a Facebook page, which is Catherine Robertson, Reiki Practitioner. So you can go to my Facebook page and follow me, and lots of events, and whether it's Family Constellation workshops or wild meditations retreats or Reiki trainings or sharings are all published there. I have a link to my website on that, which is catherinerobertson.org. and you can connect with me there to organise one-on-one sessions. So I do sessions either face-to-face or distance sessions as well. So that's no problem to distance healings. I've got clients in London and America and different places I've done healings with. So that's not a barrier either. So you can connect with me there. If you want to send me an email, my email is cr1977@gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to send you that PDF of the gratitude ebook as well. So you can send me an email and I can send that to you too.
Thank you so much for offering to do that for me. Because when you said it earlier, I thought, are they all going to now contact me and I'm going to have to connect them to you? To send. So email Catherine. That's a great idea. Email her directly. Excellent. I'll put the email address underneath if you're interested in getting that ebook that she's so generously willing to share with you.
Sure.
Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks so much, Jo. Thank you.
No worries. Bye for now.
Bye.